Damn thing. Welcome back to Two Marks and a Spark, right here on Lock 22. Here to talk all the wrestling from this last week. Russ, I have some news I want to talk about. Obviously, we need to talk about the Ric Flair stuff, the
Sure.
CJ Perry stuff. The CJ Perry thing kind of seems like a non-story to me because she hadn't been on TV in so damn long.
Quite
But
a long time.
the big news this past week, really, was Stephanie Vacquier
Yes.
seemingly just walking out of CMLL.
Seemed like she had one match in AEW. So
Right.
she's coming out of CMLL, stops in AEW for a cup of coffee, and she's apparently on her way. Has she debuted already? I haven't seen NXT.
She so they were in Mexico this week for
Okay.
house shows. And she worked, I believe for sure the Saturday show, and I think she also worked Sunday. I know she worked Isla Dawn in Mexico City on Saturday. Um I saw that match like somebody posted the full match on Twitter. I watched a part of it. It looked like it was a pretty good match. But Stephanie Vacquier is a very good worker, so it shouldn't surprise you that she had a good match with another good worker in Isla Dawn.
Right. Right.
Like, it is what it is. But I don't know, man. That whole situation was weird because it was like
Yeah, I thought she was coming to AEW to stay.
I didn't, but I'd also heard that she was like really close to an extension with New Japan. So I was like, okay, so she's staying with New Japan and gonna work CMLL and AEW and all that.
Apparently she's good
Well,
enough that there were several companies that wanted her at the same time.
well, WWE really wanted her. Like WWE went hard after her. AEW went after her, but they didn't go after her full force. And I wonder if part of that is in the last year alone, look at all the big contracts they've handed out. Uh, just off the top of my head, these are the big contracts that got handed out. Moxley got that extension last year. People forget that. Moxley just signed an extension last year.
Right.
I think Jericho signed an extension either last year or the year before. The Elite extension was last year. Okada was this year. Osprey was last year. That's all in like the last 12 to 18 months that they've signed all these people or re-signed in some cases.
Right.
Moxley, I'm sure he took a discount to stay there, but like how much of one? Really? Jericho's not taking a discount to do a damn thing.
No.
Adam Copeland probably wasn't cheap. Again, I'm sure he took a little less money than maybe he would have from WWE, but still, just because they're
But
taking
still, quite a difference in the work schedule too. And
right,
maybe John Moxley's figuring, they got, I know they got children, one or two kids.
they got
One,
one.
okay. So, maybe he wants to be at home more.
Well, I
That'd be
also
good
just
if
don't
that was
think.
possible. What's that?
I also just don't think Moxley wants to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the other thing. I just don't think Moxley saw any desire to go over there because at the time it was all up in the air as to what Vince's role would be with the TKO merger and all this stuff. And he
Right.
still had like when he signed that extension, he still had 18 months on his old contract. So it's
Right.
not like his contract was expiring. They just did a new deal. It wasn't even really an extension, it was just a new deal. It was a whole new contract. They basically ripped up the old one and wrote him a new
Sure.
one.
And
Uh
hit the last of his tenure in WWE was pretty bad. They,
well, he'll tell you that.
yeah,
He'll
yeah.
be
He,
happy to tell you that.
he talked about how awful it was for him because he was being forced to do the stuff that somebody who didn't understand it was writing for him.
Yeah.
You got a 75-year-old man writing your script for you.
When you're in your mid 30s,
Yeah.
it's not going to work out very good. I okay. So WWE has this weird thing where and I don't know if you've noticed this, especially in the last couple of years. where if they lose out on somebody they really want, they're not going to lose twice. Like they're just not going to lose twice. And I don't know if that, and that's what happened with NXT too, remember? Because NXT would lose out on somebody and then they'd go sign like three other people that they really wanted. Like ROH or New Japan would get one and WWE would get three. Like that's what would happen.
Yeah.
And now it kind of feels like AEW will get one major talent that they really want, and WWE will get two, and WWE will usually get the younger ones. Right?
Yes.
And remember, everybody criticized WWE for doing this next in line program where they were going after college athletes and stuff like that.
Right.
That
They're
move
still
has,
getting
for the
ragged
most,
on for it.
but it's for the most part paid off. Like,
It
really,
seems
it
to have,
has.
yeah.
Because Braun Breaker was a college football player. Yeah, he just so happens to be one of the Steiner's kids.
Right.
But he was a football player. He came from that whole thing. That worked out just fine.
Well, they seem to have a preference for, you see, if these guys have been on the indie circuit for a long time, then they may or may not be readily adaptable to the WWE style, because I don't care what anybody says. You watch a WWE match and you can just instinctively feel what a different style it is, what a different style of
And
storytelling
that's
you see in other
changing.
places.
That's changing, but yeah, you're right. But the other thing, and and I think this is so interesting because everybody took it as WWE is never going to sign indie talent again. Well, that just wasn't true.
Well, no, that's proved to be not true just recently.
Yeah, but here's why WWE went to that NIL program that they went to and did all this, because WWE wants younger talent. Because the problem they had forever is they were signing these indie guys who were in their mid 30s and weren't going to be there for 20 years.
Exactly.
WWE's thinking long term more than who can we sign right now to give us a boost, because they don't really need it right now.
Yes.
Like WWE, like if you look at the amount of guys out there that would actually help WWE right now that aren't there, that list isn't very long. Osprey would, but they were probably never going to get him. Okada would, but I think Okada would have been a short-term boost because Okada's 40. Like,
Kind of still seems like a little out of place. You know what I mean?
I personally would have liked to have seen him gone to WWE just because I think that would have been better than what he's done in AEW.
I just think that
Granted,
who they've got him aligned with in AEW, you know, I don't think he
has,
fits in with the elite.
now that being said, has he made the best out of a bad situation with that?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, he
he's
has. But
doing
I think he's a better wrestler than the whole rest of the team by far.
well, yeah. That's not that's not really a
But
question. That's a
yeah, I guess it doesn't take any genius to. You can just see that just watching one match, you know. But he seems like, I hope he's having fun. He's probably getting a good paycheck, you know. But if
they
at
gave him
some
the
time
biggest
they
contract
wanted to
in
turn him babyface and pull him away from the elite, I think that would be a good move. If they do it at the right time, do it the right way.
yeah.
Because people want to cheer for the Rainmaker, I can tell. It's
Hell, if you were
because
there,
you notice how they all get booed, but he still gets a lot of cheers.
yeah, because he's now heel Okada can work, but not with this group. I just don't get it. Like,
It doesn't seem to fit. Now, Jungle Boy and Adam Page, yeah, they fit into that group of the elite, because they fit into that group of wrestlers that many of
and
us
Kenny, if
enjoy
Kenny Omega
hating.
was healthy, the thing I never understood when they turned Kenny heel is he was still getting cheered. The Bucks would get booed.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they turned him heel the last time? Because the Bucks were heel before, and they were heel with Kenny. Kenny was getting cheered, and the Bucks were the ones getting booed
That's right.
because nobody wants to boo the cleaner.
I hear you.
I don't know, dude. It's a lot of weird stuff going on. I don't know. I think Stephanie back here to WWE is a bigger deal than anybody's going to make out of it. Um, I
Yes.
don't think it'll be a. I don't think it'll be a big deal right away. I think that's 2-3 years down the road. We're going to see just how much that's going to pay off. But because she's going to go to NXT, like we know that. Sean said that. I think Triple H even said it. So yeah, they're having her work house shows in Mexico, but that just fucking makes sense with
Yes.
where she's coming from. So, and
I've
CMLL is the
also
biggest
read.
company.
I also read about there being NXT wrestlers showing up in TNA for a
Yeah,
few matches.
it seems like they are setting up for some sort of TNA versus NXT deal.
I think that could has the potential to be great.
And Joe Hendry is the most over person in NXT, and he doesn't work there. Um,
Yeah,
like
not officially, right?
no, he just doesn't work there. He works for TNA.
Okay, but he there was rumors he was headed over there.
I wouldn't be surprised. Again, he's the most over guy in NXT,
That's right.
and he doesn't even work there.
Hmm.
So, like, he gets a bigger pop than anybody, other than maybe Trick Williams. But Russ, we didn't talk about Heatwave. I just want to talk about like what happened in the main event there. Ethan Page winning the NXT title is
Yes,
the weird.
I see. I've seen this. I did not watch the show, but I did watch the the summary of it. The highlights.
Right.
And Ethan Page, it's interesting. Just a couple of months ago, after he left AEW, he shows up in Des Moines, Iowa, with the 3XW
Yeah.
world title, and says, "I'm going to get to know 3XW real well. I'm going to be around here for a long time." And the next thing you know, boop, he's in NXT. So
Well, and the weird part, remember before that, he was talking on Twitter about retiring. Like he
yeah,
was talking about being done.
they must have made him an offer he couldn't refuse. But he's a good pick, great wrestler.
And here's the thing: he is not that young, really. Like he's
The older he
34.
looks, how on
He's 34.
34. So he's been doing this a few years then.
He's been around. Now, AEW had a real opportunity to do something with him, and they just didn't do it. Like point blank, AEW missed the boat on him, and they've missed the boat on Ricky Starks.
Oh God, yes.
But this Ethan Page gamble, because it was a gamble for WWE to sign him. I mean, let's not act like it wasn't. Granted, it was pretty much a surefire bet, but it was a bet that they were
Mhm.
taking. It's paid off. It
Yeah,
worked. He got over.
that's right.
Him and Sean Spears, both of them. And letting them
John
use their.
Spears, I think I've said for years that he's very underrated, and he has been capable of a whole lot more than he has been allowed to do in both companies.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And now he's doing really well in NXT. So, and I think it's interesting they're letting him be Sean Spears and not making him be Ty Dillinger. They're not changing Ethan Page's
Yep.
name. They're not going to change Stephanie Vacier's name because that just doesn't make any goddamn sense.
No, wouldn't make any sense. I think they have really slowed down on. It used to be when somebody from the Indies came to WWE, they almost always automatically got a new gimmick or a new name. They've slowed down on that a lot.
I wonder. I think LA Knight is too over to change him back to Eli Drake.
Right. I think
But I
so.
wonder if he signed now, I think he would probably be Eli Drake.
I think
I
uh I think we're going to get him versus Logan Paul, it looks like.
Yep.
Do you think
So
they'll finally get the title off of Logan Paul then?
yeah, I think they have to.
I think it's time.
But Russ, let's just. I know we're a little tighter on time than we usually are today, but let's talk about this Ric Flair thing a little bit more.
Yeah, apparently these energy drinks that he put his name on, it's a mark. They talked about a multiple year contract, but it's been less than a year and it's already over. I don't
Yep.
think these things sold very well. From what I've read, it's you can't find it in the stores. So they've had problems with
Well,
distribution.
it's not just about the energy drink thing. I think AEW wanted to separate themselves from him.
Well, Ric Flair is kind of he's always saying something to get himself in trouble. He's always saying something that's going to offend people and rub people the wrong way.
Kind of like me and you,
Yeah, but Flair's even worse,
somehow. Uh, Russ, what did you think of Raw overall? We're a little tighter on time than usual today, so I don't guarantee we're gonna go shot for shot on these things. But
Well,
Raw, I thought was better than it's been, only because Pat McAfee came back.
yes, I like that.
And oh, speaking of commentary, one more news bit: Joe Tessitore sounds like he's headed to SmackDown.
Okay,
So, for those of you that don't know who Joe Tessitore is, he has worked for ESPN for
right.
a,
He's been
about as long
mostly is
as
it
me.
college football, right? Mostly.
He's no, kind of. So here's the thing with Joe Tessitore. He is college football, yes, but he's also done boxing. He's done MMA. He's done pro wrestling coverage for ESPN in the past.
All right.
So he isn't a know nothing. Like, he's not some jabroni who's just walking in the door thinking he's going to all of a sudden be great at this just because he's worked for ESPN. No, no.
Yeah.
ESPN did coverage of WrestleMania this year, and Joe Tessitore was the one doing that coverage.
Well, cool.
So it's not like Joe Tessitore hasn't been around this and hasn't
Right.
seen this stuff. Also, another thing to note with Joe Tessitore, he's very close friends with CM Punk. Like, just let that be known. He is good friends with
Yep.
CM Punk, and he has been for a long time.
Well,
So
he'll probably be
this
putting him over then.
so this is not necessarily an out of nowhere move. I kind of thought this might happen. I started to get the inkling that this was going to happen right around WrestleMania when he started doing all the ESPN interviews. Because, like, Rock did an ESPN interview. Charlotte was on the ESPN WrestleMania post show. Like, WWE's not doing that willy nilly with whoever ESPN throws out there.
Right.
They're only doing it if it's Stephen A or somebody they like.
Right.
And it was Joe Tessitore. And I was like, oh, WWE is probably going to grab him.
Right.
Now, we didn't see him this week on SmackDown. I don't know when we're going to see him. I would imagine after SummerSlam is probably. It's going to be weird for him, though, because he's still going to be calling college football games. He's still going to be doing college football.
Right.
So how is that going to work?
He's going to have a very full schedule, isn't he?
Is he is he going to do every SmackDown? Is it still going to be Corey and Wade sometimes? Is it going to be Tessitore, Corey, and Wade? That would be my guess.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to have to. That's how they're going to have to do it. If they want to do Tessitore on SmackDown, they're going to have to do a 3-man booth.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah, 3 man.
Because if Tessitore's not going to be there half the time,
I can stand it. I've gotten to the point where I can stand a 3 man booth as long as one of the three is not named Excalibur. If you know what I
but
mean.
but you get what I mean by,
No.
like, I don't know if people realize this. People that don't watch college football probably don't understand this. College football is not just a Saturday thing anymore.
Yes. That's
That's
true.
a Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing
Right.
for 2 months. And then
So
it's
he's not going to be able to call games and SmackDown on the same week then, on Friday.
I think he does mostly the Saturday night games. I think that's mostly what he does. So, like, the Notre Dame Ohio State games. Like, stuff
Sure.
like that, the bigger games. But, like, as somebody who's watched college football for a long time, Joe Tessitore is fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like this guy doesn't know what he's doing. This is a really good hire for WWE, and not enough people are talking about just how good of a deal this is. And apparently it's like a 3 or 4 year deal. So this is not a short term thing. This is a
Yeah.
this and this feels like a Nick Khan move. Like Nick Khan said, "Hey, so here's how I imagine the phone call went." He called Triple H and he's like, "Hey, so Corey Graves fucking sucks." And Paul's like, "Well, yeah. What do you want me to do about it?" And Nick's like, "Well, Joe Tessitore." And he's like, "Okay." And Paul's probably like, "Okay, what about him?" He works for ESPN. What do you want me to do? And he's like, "Well, we could hire Joe Tessitore." And Paul was
Yeah.
probably something to the equivalent of, "Now, how the fuck do you plan on doing that?"
That's good, man. All right. It's a good plan.
He's like, "That's a great." He probably said something to the equivalent of, "That's a great idea. How the fuck are we going to do that?"
Yeah.
If somebody said, "Hey, do you want to hire one of ESPN's lead college football guys?" You'd be like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. How the fuck are we going to do that?"
Mm-hmm.
Because college football is a great gig. Like, that's a great fucking gig. Like, how the hell are you going to just get a guy? But they did it.
Right.
Now let's talk about Raw. I thought the CM Punk promo to start the show was fantastic.
Very well done.
But then again, CM Punk doing a good promo is kind of like saying rain is wet.
Well, I tell you what, whether you like the guy or you hate the guy, he you have to listen to him. He's got stage presence, as they say. And
Mm-hmm.
I like the way they are continuing to develop the feud between him and Drew. Supposedly, they will be meeting with Adam Pearce this evening on Raw as we're taping this Monday afternoon.
And Pierce
And
told Punk not to show up, but you know he will.
right. And of course, no physicality allowed. So most likely there's going to be some, right?
Most likely.
But
I, I,
if he's not cleared, they're gonna if Punk is not medically cleared by a SummerSlam, then they're gonna have to figure out some way to extend this on a little further. Because by this
there's a
point,
lot of ways.
we got to see it. There's a lot of things they could do, and probably only half of them make sense.
You want to know what I think they're going to do?
What's that? What's your prediction?
Punk versus Drew at SummerSlam. Seth versus Punk at Bad Blood because they're building this Bad Blood show up like it's going to be fucking incredible.
Yes.
And they've got that Berlin show in between.
Which one?
So Bash in Berlin.
Oh yes, yeah. I forgot about that one.
So like and they're probably I don't know that they're going to do a September PLE only because Bash in Berlin's August 31st.
Right.
So and Bad Blood is like the first week of October.
Correct. Yeah. So I
And
probably won't have one in September.
or if they do, it'll be like what Fastlane was last year, where it was
Right.
kind of a quick show and they were kind of in and out.
Although in September, we do have, of course, on September 1st, we got All Out.
That got moved.
Oh, it did. I thought we were looking at the 1st and the 25th, but maybe that has been moved.
All Out is the 7th of September
Oh, all right.
as of right now.
Okay. I stand corrected. I think originally it was scheduled for the 1st,
It
but
it was scheduled for the
that
first.
was an old schedule. They got
It
something
was
coming up the week after Backblood, something called Wrestle Dream. What the hell is a Wrestle Dream?
well, we already had Wrestle Dream. That's where Adam Copeland debuted last year.
Yeah, it's just kind of that's another one of those pay-per-view names that doesn't sound that great to me.
Well, here's the thing: WWE has all the great pay-per-view names.
They sure do. I mean,
WrestleMania,
Bad
fantastic
Blood.
name.
There you go.
WrestleMania, fantastic.
Right.
SummerSlam, great.
No.
Like they've
Royal
taken all
Rumble.
these,
Royal Rumble.
awesome.
Yep.
Survivor Series.
Well, even some of the old WCW names like Bash at the Beach, Great American Bash, uh,
What's another one? I
Bunkhouse
actually thought
Stampede.
I actually thought Taboo Tuesday wasn't like a terrible pay-per-view name.
Yeah, they've done that
Actually,
one a couple of times now.
I actually thought it wasn't like a terrible name.
Right.
Anyway, so we continue on with this Punk promo,
Yes.
and Seth cuts him off, and they're setting up for both Punk and Drew and Seth and
Well,
Punk, and
Seth
they're going to do it all
reminded CM Punk, there are consequences.
for your action.
That's right.
And Punk did hint at he's probably going to wrestle John Cena. It seems like that's happening.
Well, I kind of predicted them. I know a lot of people were saying that Randy Orton would be a good one, and it would be, but
No,
um,
I think Randy's going to be at WrestleMania. And I still think Cena should win number 17. I still think they should put the belt on him next year. Just fuck it. What nobody Russ, would you be mad if they said, "Okay, here, look, listen. We know Cena's part-time and retiring at the end of the year and whatever. But he's going to win the belt and he's going to hold it for like 4 months and then he's going to
have a
lose.
short run and then drop it to somebody."
Drop it to a Gunther, drop it to a Braun Breaker, drop it to a young guy.
Right. Oh, Gunther would
Or,
be fantastic. I'd love to see Gunther in the World
well,
Championship.
Gunther's probably going to win the World Heavyweight title at SummerSlam.
That would
I,
I hope he does. I think it'd be fantastic. And Braun Breaker too, but I still would like him to see the hold off a year or two on him because he's so new. Sometimes it's not always the best thing when they peak that fast. Because, if he becomes champion that fast, then what do you follow it up with?
I still think the right route here is Cena wins the Rumble and Randy beats Cody, and you do Randy and Cena at Mania. And then you can do whatever you, but do you really see? You can't do that though, because if Cena wins the Rumble and he's going to be on Raw, which they've already said Cena's going to be on Raw,
Right.
so he can't do that unless Cena wins the title before WrestleMania, which I don't think they should do, and Randy wins the Rumble, which I'm a Randy Orton fan, so I wouldn't mind that too much.
Yeah, that's right.
Randy Orton winning does not piss me off. I know it pisses some people off when Randy wins everything, but I'm
Well,
like,
he's won
dude,
the Royal Rumble a few years back. I know he won at least one of them.
he's won two.
Two.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
I know people get pissed off when Randy wins stuff, but I'm like, dude, this is like one of the best wrestlers of this era.
Yeah.
He's gonna win shit. It's just gonna. This guy's good, like all the time. This guy's never not good. Like seriously. Yeah, he's old school and a little slow sometimes, but it works for him.
All right. He has earned the right to be that way, as far as I'm concerned. He's paid his dues. If he wants to slow down a little bit, more power to him.
If he wants to have a slow and plodding 25-minute match, fucking let him have it.
Well, like I said, WWE style.
The first match of this Raw show was
WWE, a big part of the WWE storytelling is stand around and wait for something to happen.
or
And
make a funny face.
and it can work. It can work if it's done right.
And then we get Chad Gable versus Jey Uso. Speaking of really good storytelling,
Yes.
Jey Uso beats Chad Gable, and then the Wyatt Six show up. And because Jey Uso isn't an idiot, he gets the hell out of there about as quick as he can.
Exactly. But
He
Chad
says,
Gable's not quite as bright.
Well, Gable's dead on the ground, but like Jey Uso looked around, saw the lights starting to go out, didn't hear his music playing, and he's like, "Yeet," and then
Yep.
he got out of there.
Right.
He's like, I want no part of whatever the hell's about to happen. I don't want to know. I don't want to see it.
Well, I'm starting to warm up to the White Six. I'm still not sure exactly what they're going to do with all these characters, but I tell you, the promos from Bo Dallas have been just riveting to me. I've really, really enjoyed them a lot. I like
And
the
both
whole
of
way
them,
they're doing it. I think my favorite thing about it is the old VHS tape format.
the
I'm an
horror
old
movie
guy.
aspect to
I
it,
still have great affection for dead formats in general, but especially VHS is one of my favorites.
dude. I don't know if you know this, but like even when I was a kid and VHS was long dead, I still had an affinity for it, and I still do. I don't have a VHS player anymore, but part of
Yeah.
me wishes I did because
Well, they're not being manufactured anymore, but there's probably still some unused ones out there.
you can find some deals on like decent ones. Now, getting them to play on modern TVs is a bit of a problem because they're all
Yes, it
component
is.
or
Correct.
AV cables, but you can get converters that convert that signal into an HDMI. It's a little finicky, but you can do it. And clearly WWE figured that out because
Yes, right.
they're getting it to work just fine. And also, me and you both love horror movies, so this
Yes,
this like found footage gimmick just
right.
tickles our fancy.
Yes, it does. And like I've not been a huge fan of all the spooky gimmicks, but I kind of like where this was. I'm interested to see where it's going, and I hope that they don't do something stupid to blow it. I felt like the when the Fiend started wrestling some of those matches, they got a little out of control, and everybody remembers the title match against Seth Rollins that was like a freaking Warner Brothers cartoon. I mean, they were practically dropping anvils on each other's heads, and shit like that.
Well, after this, we get Jackie Redmond interviewing Sheamus. Russ, it's been about a year since Jackie Redmond started doing this interview gimmick. How are we feeling about Jackie Redmond? She's no Renee Young, but she's pretty good.
Yeah, she's all right.
She's not bad.
She's not really
Like
annoying. If I'm
she's
not
not
annoyed, then they get a pass.
she's not Marvez, who just pisses me off. Now, is Renee Young still the best fucking interviewer they've ever had, and it's not even close, and they
Right,
never should have let her go? Yeah,
right, right. And the second best is Byron Saxton, right?
fuck off. Anyway,
No, 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 no. Come on. Let's have a little love for. Once in a great while, you still see him on TV.
he does like raw talk and stuff now. It's weird. Anyway,
Yep,
it seems like they're setting up for a Sheamus Bronson Reed feud, which I am all for.
100%. I love both of them. Big Bronson Reed. I love his. The on the Videotron, his entrance where he's knocking down the buildings. It reminds me they did the same thing years ago with King Kong Bundy, where they kind of portrayed him like a big King Kong Godzilla type monster.
And it worked.
Yeah, yeah, Big Bronson Reed. I hope that I hope he gets a championship sometime somewhere.
He
I
will.
don't know if he did in NXT or not. I can't remember.
I think he won the North American title. I do want to skip to the main event of Raw, though. I know we're
All
skipping
right.
around,
Yeah, no
but
problem.
I want to talk about this main event because I want to spend a little bit of time on it. I actually thought this mixed tag match was really fucking good. This Dominic and Liv against Ray and Zelina. I
Correct.
thought this was pretty good.
I
Now,
did.
Liv and Zelina have worked each other 100 times. They're both very good. Also, I know we kind of crap on her sometimes, but Zelina Vega's like fucking good. like
She's real good.
people forget how good Zelina Vega is. Like this woman can wrestle. People forget that,
Okay.
and this just kind of reminded you. So they have this really good match, and Liv and Dominic end up getting the win. And of course, Ray and Dominic are great together
And this is a
against
clean
each other.
pinfall for Ray over his father.
For Dominic over his dad, yep.
So that's a
And
milestone right there.
And it just when it looks like Dominic and Liv are about to commit an atrocity of a violation
It looks
here,
like they might have to be. They're going to be going R-rated here any second.
and it just looks like this show's about to break into an X-rated film. Uh, Rhea Ripley's music hits, and Ottawa goes nuts.
Boy, what a pop! What an incredible pop!
And Rhea Ripley comes down to the ring like a house of fire. Like, she didn't hit anybody, she didn't touch anybody, she just stared at people, and the place didn't give a shit.
Yeah, it was great. The feed got cut off prematurely, right at
Like,
the height. You ever notice how AEW? I mean, the Turner networks there, they'll extend over the hour, several minutes. When USA, boy, when that time is up, they cut that signal. I mean, if they're running 10 seconds late on what they're doing, you're not going to see it. That's happened a couple times lately.
so
And I'm like, hey, it's a live program, people. We'll give it a little room to breathe here. Maybe Netflix will not be doing that.
I doubt Netflix will do that because look at like a Netflix show. What's a good example? I'll use Stranger Things as an example because it's the most popular Netflix thing.
Mhm.
Those episode times are not all the same.
Right.
One episode will be 40 minutes, 58 minutes, 32 minutes. Like they bounce around a bit. I wonder if Raw will start to do that, where maybe some weeks Raw will be 2.5 hours, some weeks Raw will be 3 hours.
Sure.
There might be some variation there.
That would be all right with me.
Because if a show can justify being 3 hours, you're not going to complain.
Right. But if you can get her all done, there's something to be. It's kind of like, I've been to a lot of concerts before, and I tend to not like bands, even if it's a good band. I just don't want to listen to a 2 hour set. I really don't. But some of the younger punk bands that get in there and just knock the shit out of it for 20, 25 minutes, they leave you wanting more. So there's something to be said. Sometimes less is more.
I've been to one concert that went over an hour and a half that I thought needed to. One.
Hmm.
Actually, two. I've been to two. So I went to Garth Brooks, and that obviously that was a long fucking show. But that's Garth Brooks, kind of like Randy Orton. He's kind of earned it at this point that if he wants to go out there
Sure.
and do a 2 hour set, fucking go ahead, buddy. And then a little band I like called The Midnight did a roughly about a 90-minute set, and I thought that was fantastic.
Yep. I saw Garth right before he started doing, about 6 months before he started doing the arenas. He was still doing county fairs. So I saw him
You know
at the
what's
Boone County Fair, believe it or not.
you know what's crazy about him? He has more longevity than just about anybody in that same space.
That's right.
He has stuck around. Now, granted, he retired for 20 years. He was gone for
I,
20 years.
Despite of internet rumors about him being a serial killer who buries people on his ranch. Have you heard that one? That was actually a
People are
thing going around on the internet. Yeah, Garth Brooks is a serial killer. Here's the proof. He played this town on this date and somebody went missing. And then he played another town on this date and somebody in that town went missing. So it's got to be Garth Brooks. I mean, he's probably grinding it up, making them into cat food or some shit.
that is a weird dude though. Garth Brooks is a weird cat.
You remember that rock album he did where he created a character, Chris Gaines or something like that, where he pretended that he took on like a persona?
What, Chris Ledoux?
Something, no, not Chris Ledoux. I know who that is. I'm thinking about Chris Gaines or he took on, I'll look it up. I can't remember for sure. That's too many
I
fried brain cells ago.
I vaguely remember this, but I also remember it not being very good.
Yeah, it wasn't.
what was
This
pretty
was a
good
good
though,
main
actually.
event, you know, and I'd be interested to hear the conversation between Dominic and Mommy. He's like,
Well,
Mommy, you're back.
if you go on YouTube, you can actually see an extended version of this after they went off the air.
Okay. I'll have to,
And
I've seen that. I need to.
there's nobody says anything, obviously not on microphone anyway, but you can hear Dominic like literally begging and pleading Rhea, like, "Whoa, calm down!" Like,
Yeah. This is, well, you know, I felt sorry for Dominic. I mean, he has done his best to get that bitch off him, but you know, she's just like staying on a hog. She won't let him go.
let's talk a little bit about Dynamite. Um, I thought this Dynamite show was great. Actually, I actually thought this show was fucking great.
What was your favorite part of it?
The end, because that Tony, we talked about it on the show, on the Money in the Bank show, but that that Tony Storm Mariah May segment was
Yes.
fucking incredible.
Yes, it was. That was, and I didn't see it coming. I knew that they were going to probably feud, but it makes sense that you know you've got to have Tony Storm be the babyface since everybody loves her already. You might as well let her be the good guy.
And I actually thought Paige versus Danielson was pretty damn good too. I thought both the
I
finals
did
were really
too.
good.
I tell you what, Brian Danielson is just really, really a good storyteller, really a good wrestler, you know. And I'm glad he won that one. I predicted it was going to go that way, but I thought I would probably be wrong.
Do you want him to win the title at Wembley?
I think that'd be fantastic. If that's the way he's going to retire and go out, it'd be good for him to go out that way, and then he could just, you know, on his way out, drop it to whoever he wants to.
Could drop it back to Swerve.
Sure. I
And
think
I
it's going
do
to be
think
a great match, but I think it'd be great for him to get. He hasn't had the world title there.
no, he hasn't had any title in
That's
AEW.
right.
That's where
He hasn't been a title guy so far in AEW.
not like he fucking needed it because he's just gonna have great matches anyway.
Right. But he's got such
Uh,
a great established international reputation. I mean, with he's right up there with guys like Okada. You know, as far as having that international reputation. Will Ospreay, you know, people all over the world recognize him. You know, it's not just a WWE thing or a AEW thing.
yeah,
Dynamite
I
overall
agree.
was pretty good.
Uh, I thought the weakest show this week, which is unusual, was SmackDown. I didn't love this SmackDown show. I thought it was fine.
I didn't see the whole show. I missed part of it, and I can't remember
Me
exactly
too.
now.
I missed most of it, but what I saw of it wasn't great. Like I missed most of SmackDown this week just because when you first, and you probably know this, when you first come back from a traveling week, it fucks you up. Like, you don't know what's going on half the time anyway.
Sure.
And I had people over here like all week, so it was like there were people in and out of my house all week too. So I was just
Right.
like, I'm trying to watch SmackDown, but I'm also thinking to myself, oh Jesus,
Right.
stop.
Exactly.
And the world
Exactly.
just stopped for a second.
Exactly.
But one thing I do want to talk about, it seems like they're finally starting to tease that after this bloodline business, it's going to be Randy and Cody.
That'd be great.
And man, I cannot wait for heel Randy Orton with this less restrictions thing. Imagine psychopath Randy Orton without the
Right.
Vince McMahon restrictions. Because remember, Psycho Randy was pretty fucking great anyway.
Yes, he was. Yeah,
I don't know if,
I can only, in my mind, I can only remember one Randy Orton match that I did not like.
which one was that?
That was the haunted house match with Bray Wyatt or the
I
Fiend or
thought that
whoever.
was fine.
You know, with the spook house match with all of the dolls hanging from the ceiling and all that bullshit. I didn't care for that. that was one of those so-called cinematic matches they were doing for a while.
Actually, I liked that feud, but I didn't like that match. Does that make any
Yeah.
sense?
I
That was
thought the
actually a
only
pretty
one
decent.
I thought the only one of those cinematic style matches that was really worth a damn was when The Undertaker was beating the hell out of AJ Styles. That one was like a great fight scene in an action movie, you know.
I agree. But Russ, what would you say your favorite show of the week was?
I would say it would have to be Raw. I think
I
Raw did a great job, great ending, great build up.
I'm gonna swerve and I'm gonna say Dynamite
Okay.
because I thought beginning to end Dynamite was the best show. I thought Raw was fantastic, but I think Raw did suffer a little bit in that second hour, which is why we skipped so much of it because I just thought
Right. Oh,
it
one thing
lagged a
I
little bit.
forgot to mention that I appreciated was I don't know how many people noticed, but the ring gear that Willow Nightingale wore in her match against Mariah May, it was yellow and it had the danger on there. That was a direct homage to the gear that Owen Hart wore at one point in his career, you know. And I noticed that, and I hope a lot of people did notice that.
And Danielson had pink
That
on.
was a direct Owen reference there.
And Danielson had pink on too.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
But he's done that before. I mean, so maybe people didn't notice that as much because Danielson has pink in his gear like almost all the time. But by the way, Brian Danielson, underrated ring gear, like constantly. This guy has some of the best ring gear all the time, and people just don't talk about it. Anyway, I I think Dynamite was the best show beginning to end. I think Raw had the best high point though, because that Rhea return was just so
All right.
awesome.
Well, I can't wait to see what's going to happen tonight. I might have to just sit down and turn on the air conditioner and have open up a Coors and watch me some Raw tonight.
Can't believe you drink Coors.
Well, you know, I'm going to have to think about changing brands now because I did some research on the founder of the company and I was not aware that he was so heavily involved in extreme right-wing politics. You know, he founded the Heritage Foundation, and man, I don't know that I had no idea that. Alls I knew was that that the Coors Brewery was founded way back in the day by one of these beer drinking Baptist families. You know, that's all I knew.
Well, you should
But
have known they were right wing when you heard Baptist.
well, yeah, that's right. You know, but I might have to go back to PBR. And
Hey, hey,
I don't mean professional bull riding either.
hey, don't shit on PBR. PBR is all
I,
right when you've had like 5 beers before that.
I like PBR. It's a good beer. It's a good redneck beer. Although,
Especially when you're drunk.
well, you know, here's the thing. If you wanted to get really picky, I imagine there are a lot of companies whose heads are into some right wing politics. If you boycotted everything that you have potentially you might disagree with, there might not be anything left to buy. You know.
That's true. Remind me when we get off air here in just a second to tell you a story about PBR, the first time I had a PBR.
All right.
Specifically the first time. You'll laugh. I cannot tell it on air, but you will laugh.
Okay.
All right, folks, we are going to get out of here. We will be back here next week, same time, same channel. Go like, comment,
We
subscribe, go
will.
check out all the other stuff right here on Lock 22. NFL is going to be coming back pretty soon, I think. And we will talk to you next week. Russ, thanks for coming to work today, buddy.
You bet.
Folks, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.